My cans, my precious antique cans.
Hi everyone, it's Johnny Seed here again, and today's video we're going to be talking about one of my old collections from when I was a teenager. So I'll start off with the question: did you have any weird collections when you were a teenager? I know a lot of people used to collect comics and stamps and things like that, and records obviously. Would you ever collect anything that in the pre-internet age you didn't think anyone else would have collected, and you know, it was your own thing? Well, for me it was soft drink cans, and then it moved on to beer cans. This was back in the 80s. So it all started back in 1985. A friend of mine went over to Canada for the summer. When he came back, he brought some cans of New Coke with him, which had just come out earlier that year in North America. And he brought some of those cans back for us to try, and I had one, and I tasted it, and I can't exactly remember what it tasted like, but I remember it being a bit of a disappointment. Anyway, because this was a gift, I didn't want to just throw the can in the bin, so I washed it out and put it on a shelf, and I was looking at it and I thought, oh, that looks quite cool on there. What if I added another can to it, like a normal kind of Coke? And from there I just got the idea of collecting soft drink cans, pop and soda cans, and then a few years later it moved on to beer cans. And as you can tell from this photograph taken a couple of years later, if you just ignore my girlfriend at the time brandishing a firearm, in the background you can see on a shelf you know, with the state of my collection. That went all the way up to the ceiling at one point, and then it covered pretty much every other surface in my bedroom, and it got a little bit out of hand. And then there they stayed for a while. Then when I eventually moved out, when I was in my early 20s, they ended up getting put into boxes and stored in the cellar at my parents' house, well, should I say in the damp cellar in my parents' house, where they sat for over a decade until the turn of the century, and then by which time they'd all pretty much turned into rust. Well, at least all the ones that were made of steel and not aluminium. So unfortunately the vast majority of them got thrown away, but some of them still survived, and I have them in front of me here, and I'm going to go through them. They are mostly beer. There's a few soft drinks and a couple of ciders, I think. Oh, and talking of beer, if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you a little bit of some footage I filmed at the Manchester Beer Festival I went to a couple of weeks ago now. So that's going to be at the very end. This might go on for a bit, so it might be a two-parter. I shall upload them both at the same time. But yeah, so this is part one. So yeah, it's a shame though that the vast majority of my collection got chucked into the bin, because I did have some quite interesting things at one point, because I had some 80s classics like Quattro, I remember that was delicious, and Squirt, which I don't think they would release it nowadays with a name like Squirt, although I think you can still buy it. I'll buy it online. It's probably more popular in America, and also some weird and wonderful ones. I remember having a Pocari Sweat from Japan, which is like an energy drink for, you know, sweat as in, you know, when you've been to the gym. And there was a mint flavoured one, I think, which was from Russia, and apparently, yeah, mint flavoured fizzy drinks are a thing in Russia, and a chocolate one, Chocolade, which I've tried looking online for any kind of evidence that it existed, and I can't find it. I think there are a few other brands of chocolate aid and or fizzy chocolate flavoured drinks, but the one I had, I'm pretty sure, was a Corona, the brand Corona. This is a Corona lemonade from about the same time. Check out that really 80s looking graphics on there. But the chocolate one, I'm pretty sure, was like purple and brown. If anybody remembers it, let me know, because I'm 100% sure I had one. So yeah, so this is lemonade, Corona lemonade from the 80s. I'm just looking at the bottom here, April 87. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the sell-by dates were usually about 6 months to a year after they were in the shop, so you can sort of track back from when I actually was collecting these. So there we go, 1987, that one. So I'll just go through the soft drink ones first, and then we shall move on to the hard stuff, shall we? What else have we got here? I've got an Orangina. This one was from Spain. And a Crest lemonade. This looks like something that was in a mini bar maybe, or on a plane, kind of half-size tin. Yeah, these are still a bit dusty because they've been sat in a bin bag for like the last 20 years. And what else? Oh, the only kind of Coke I have left was Coke Light, aka Diet Coke. As you can see that in one of these mini tins. Again, this is like mini bar kind of stuff. There we go, Coca-Cola Light. As I said, this was Diet Coke. And what else do we have here? Oh, another orange. Oh, Banga Orange. Never a good idea. There you go. No idea where this is from. You can see how faded it is there, because these were sat on a shelf for many, many years. What's the date on this one? Oh, 91. So I may have got this one abroad somewhere. And we have a 1 cal, another diet drink, Appleade. It's sugar-free with NutraSweet. It says energy on that. I don't know how much energy you're going to get from 1 calorie. So that's 1 cal. Oops. Appleade. And some shandies. Got old Shandy Bass. Shandy Base. This is one of the bigger cans. You can hear the floating around is the old ring pull on there. Oops. What does it say on there? Free vouchers from Genie worth £12. Another Shandy. This is Super Shandy. Where is this from? Sweetened sugar only. Lemonade and beer. I can't actually read what it says on there. 1.2% by volume of alcohol. So yeah, it'd take you quite a few of those to get tanked up. And a Shandy Pilsner. Or a Pilsner Shandy, as opposed to a bitter Shandy. This would be a lager Shandy. And this was, what does it say there? Canada Dry. So we were moving into the Shandy market. And, Eisenbeck Light. I think this is a non-alcoholic. I think that's what that word means there. Light special beer. Westfalisch Privat. I think this was from Germany. Can't actually see how much alcohol is in this. But it does contain 40% less calories than normal beer, so yeah, Eisenbeck. Right, so on to the beers. And what better place to start than the first beer I ever drank, Martin's Lager. This is from Belgium, although when I got it, it was from Spa. So yeah, the first beer I ever had was a Martin's one. I don't think it was this actual can, but it was definitely this brand. They were 29p each, I seem to think, and there was a shop near me which was selling them. And I was definitely 18. I wasn't still at school when we had this. I had a friend who, part of our group, who was, let's say he was blessed with a bit of a moustache at a very young age, and he was able to pass himself off as being 18. At least you could do that back in the 80s, and he used to go in and we used to get we got 3 cans of this each. So yeah, so we spent £1 and we went up to the beach, and yeah, and that was it. It was all downhill from then on. And I can still remember the taste. I can remember vividly having like a first taste of beer. I mean, I had tasted my dad's homebrew beer when I was a little kid, and was like, and I couldn't believe anyone would actually drink that for fun. But yeah, Martin's Lager. Now this was, I guess this was about 3%, but if you can read on there, something I've noticed after looking at these is that back in the 80s and probably the 90s as well, it didn't say percent volume like alcohol, it had original gravity. So you can see there it says original gravity 1030 to 1033, which I think works out at about 3 and a bit percent in today's money, as it were. I'm not entirely sure how the gravity works. I remember my dad trying to explain it when he was making his home brew. He had this sort of, it looked like a bit like a thermometer mixed with like a fishing lure, and had a bit of a weight on it, and you drop it in, and the deeper it went, it had like numbers up the side. And so I think because I think alcohol is less dense than water. Correct me if I'm wrong with this, but the further it sank in, you'd be able to read off what how much alcohol was in it, and I think that's where they get the gravity from. So yeah, they were measured in gravity back then, not in percentage. So I think Martin still make beer, from what I've seen. But yeah, happy days. And then a couple of years later, sometime in the late 80s, there was a big thing for 1080. So as you can imagine, this was quite a bit stronger. So this was more like 8%. There was a rash of these I seem to remember coming out. 1080s being a thing. You see, I think it says there 1077 to 1080. So yeah, 1080p meant something quite different back in the 80s. Yeah, so this was their entry into the super strong lager market. This is a skull one. And yeah, I seem to remember a friend of mine, Clive, at school. He used to make his own beer and wine, and he tried to brew some 1080 beer one time. He is a scientist. He managed to figure it out, and he just thought, oh, we just need to put loads more. Oh, it does say that actually, 8.5%. He just thought he would add extra sugar into his beer, and he said, don't worry about it, this is going to be super strong. Well, unfortunately, I think he said that a couple of weeks later the demijohn exploded with all the fermentation that was going on, and it shot up and covered his bedroom ceiling. So yeah, School Extra Strength. Oh yeah, this skull actually still comes with its ring pull. Although you've never seen one of these for a long time. Okay, a vintage Stella Artois, a bit of a wife beater, Dirty Stella, and a mini version. There you go. And a Mackeson's Stout. Do they still sell this? I don't see it that often. And have you ever had a Mackie and Coke? Yeah, something my mum used to drink that. Mackeson's Stout and Coca-Cola. Now I think from what I remember, there seems to be a special technique. You have to pour in one first, and if you got it the wrong way around, I can't remember which one it is. It was either you pour the Mackie into the Coke. I think you pour the Coke into the Mackie, and otherwise it just foams up everywhere. But it was delicious, and I have to see if I can find some Mackesons and then recreate that. So yeah, the original and genuine. For this is whipped bread, and it's only 3%. From the Co-op, strong export lager. Look at that for no nonsense packaging. This was 1045 to 1051, so I'm guessing about 4 or 5% in strength. And yeah, I'm pretty sure they still make this. Do they? I know Carling still thinks. Is it still called Carling Black Label? Absolute pish. But yeah, there you go. That's one of the oldest cans there. And I think one even older, I think that is the old design. You got 10% extra free. So the date on the back of this is March 87. So yeah, you can track back to the dates when I probably picked this up at a party or something. And oh yeah, one of my favourite beers from when I first started drinking bitter. This was the beer that they used to sell in the Queen's pub that we used to go in quite a lot in Fleetwood. She's Thwaites' from Blackburn, so local to me, this one. So yeah, something about the pubs back in when I was first going into them in the late 80s is that the whole very rarely would you get guest ales and things like that. You know, the pubs were owned most of the time. Most pubs were owned by a brewery, and they would have one beer. So if you went into a Thwaites' pub, you'd get Thwaites' bitter. That was it, and they probably had a mild and a couple of lagers. But there was yeah. So in Fleetwood, I think there was a Thwaites' pub. There was a couple of Boddington's pubs because they were in Manchester. There was Higson's. I don't know if you remember Higson's Brewery. I think they were from Liverpool. And there was a Webster's one. And what were the other ones? There was Samuel Smith's. I know they're still going. They only ever sell their own brand of stuff, which is usually quite good as well. So yeah, so just be grateful. We are now living in a golden age of craft beer and weird and wonderful flavours. But back in the late 80s and 90s, when I first started imbibing, you got what you were given. Ding. Right, Trio Export. This is one I've never heard of since. Where's this one from? Oh, this is extra, which means it is, but I don't know why they're calling it extra because it's still only 1034 gravity, so it wasn't, I don't know where the extra is coming from. So cool. And who's this by? It just says brewed and canned in the UK for VMS Limited. So, fairly generic. Oops. And similarly, Gold Cross Pilsner Lager. That one, anyone remember this? I don't. This was 1034 gravity, and this was produced by brewed in the United Kingdom for Produce Importers Alliance Limited in Reigate in Surrey. Okay, so I think that's it for part one. I come back in part two for some more vintage drink cans. Hey, alright, it's Johnny Seed here again, and I'm back in Manchester today. It's Marky Smith Day. It's 3 years since he died, so we're here at the beer festival, and we've got 750 different beers to try, so it's going to be a long day. No, it's the Jaipur beer bus.